Watch his chest case every minute. We've done all we could, but it'll be a horse race. Get him through if you can.
We'll get him there.
If you lose him, it won't be your fault. He's pretty deep into borrowed time. Good luck.
U.S. Navy flight nurse Jane Louise Jane Kendeigh was born and raised in Ohio. She attended nursing school during the Second World War and joined the first class of U.S. Navy's School of Air Evacuation after she graduated. Jane was one of 24 nurses and 24 pharmacists' mates that trained for rescuing the wounded in distant lands. They were trained for crash procedures and field survival, particularly in the face of simulated attacks. They were also trained on treating patients in high altitudes and crash landing in the ocean. The program included aeromedical physiology, physical conditioning, and calisthenics. Upon graduating from the program in early 1945, most of the 48 nurses that successfully completed the program were assigned to a Naval Air Transport Service Medical Evacuation Squadron, VRE-1. This squadron deployed to active combat zones in the Pacific. On March 6, 1945, Jane was the first to descend from the plane and aid the wounded soldiers on the airfield. In this moment, she would become the first naval flight nurse to land at Iwo Jima. "I was a little apprehensive," Jane would recall later after making many trips into combat zones. "I was never frightened at the time, only later when I had time to think. I was too busy with the patients to be afraid." The evacuation mission at Iwo Jima lasted until March 21, 1945. They were able to rescue and attend to 2,393 Marines and sailors. After Iwo Jima, Jane returned to the U.S. and participated in a war bond drive. However, she was shortly requested to return to the Pacific. On April 7, 1945, Jane was once again the first flight nurse to land and serve at the Battle of Okinawa. The Battle of Okinawa alone accounted for 17% of the total Navy and Marine Corps casualties suffered in World War II. Owing to the enormous casualty totals, Okinawa was the largest combat casualty evacuation operation in U.S. military history and marked the first time the Navy evacuated more casualties by air than sea. After Okinawa, many of the flight nurses were used to repatriate prisoners of war from the Philippines to Guam. A few who stayed in the service years after the war would also participate in the Berlin airlift. Jane and her fellow flight nurses were able to tend and evacuate 1,176,048 military patients during the war. Only 46 died on the journey. Our rewards are wan smiles, a slow nod of appreciation, a gesture, a word. Accolades greater, more heartwarming than any medal. Jane recalled about her service, which saved many lives, but more importantly, provided comfort to men that witnessed the incredible horrors of war.